Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. 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 But he shall overcome at the last.
Yat Eitaneh, Masan and Nishla. This is Navajo Grandma again. And today we are going, my hair is going to be all over the place because there's a wind and my hair might stand straight up. And I've already had that happen without Grandpa telling me. And one of the things, my hair was straight up. So if it's wrapped around my nose and things, sorry guys, this is not a beauty contest. So this is the beginning of the video. The question that was asked, and again, this is another live video question. The question is it possible that the Dene are a lost Hebrew nation? And that was Amy Till who asked that question. Another portion that I felt went hand in hand with that is another statement. This is Dene Spiritual Beliefs Pre-Colonization by Marion Spring. And this is, can you see it? This is from Grandma. She wrote this out. And before we start, Navajo Grandma thanks Amy Till and Marianne Spring. Okay? This video is dedicated to you women. And I said, Aheha. Now remember, that means thank you. Aheha. Well, I'm gonna explain through, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 3 situations. And it should pretty much help you understand the answer to the question, or it will leave you to your own conclusion, which I would rather prefer. Marietta Wetherill was born in 1876 in Illinois, and in 1880 her family visited the Southwest. There she met her future husband, Richard Wetherill. In 1897, Richard and Marietta got married, and they moved to Chaco Canyon. where Richard excavated, he led excavations of the Pueblo Bonito ruins. It was called Pueblo Bonito. That was the main plaza, but the whole area was called Chaco Canyon. In 1908, as she was adopted, Marietta was adopted into the Chi clan by a Navajo man, a Dene, by the last name of Bial. They had established a trading post there. As they did this, now remember, my great-great-grandfather was there, Rafael Mescalito, and he had selected 13 Hatathi medicine men who were helping Richard Wetherill to excavate Pueblo Bonito. While they were there at the trading post, now there were 13 men, including my great-great-grandfather, while they were excavating and renovating the Pueblo Bonito, that one afternoon, Marietta came upon the men, and it was lunchtime, and they were in a circle. And she wondered what they were doing, and she kind of walked up to them and said, "What are you men doing?" And of course, she's speaking Navajo at the time. And one of the men said, "Well, we're drawing." And she looked over, and she almost fainted, because the picture that they had been drawing, it was a layout of palm trees and elephants. There was Jerusalem, and she looked at the waters, and there was this big, massive ship they had made. And they're like, and she says, "Where on earth did you get this? I mean, you're drawing this. You've never been off the reservation." And they all looked at her, and they told her, "Of course, this is our story. This is what has been handed down. This is where we came from. We came from the East." And she was in total disbelief. But she tells a story in her own words and did a recording. It was a shock to her, but I want you to know that there are ancestral oral histories that were handed down. It was handed down from all my paternal line, because I remember I'm living there, and from my great-great-great-grandfather, and it was handed down from Broad Rim Hat, and then to Rafael Mescalito, and then to Mescalito Nelson, who is my grandfather, and then, of course, it landed with me. So all of this information was incredible. Stories that were handed down, how we came to be in the Southwest. Now, we're going to move on. When my grandfather used to meet, okay, he was a Hatathi, a medicine man, and he was exceptionally, I would say, you would always I always tell you he walked on water. He was so exceptional and very spiritual, prayerful to the hilt, obedient and incredible, and very, very wise. And so when I was in the Hogan with the 12 men, and they would first cleanse themselves, go to a trache, the sweat lodge, fasting. They would cleanse themselves, then they'd clean up and come into the Hogan, and all 12 of them would sit around in the Hogan. And again, I was behind Grandpa. I told you I was always behind him. And I was allowed there, remember, because I was non-menstrual. And so, and I was a little child. And I hung on to Grandpa. Well, when they were there were stories. I mean, there were oral histories. And they would bring out their, what you would call their seer stones. When they would sit in a circle, they all had a seer stone. Now this is a big fat one. This is not a seer stone, but it was a rock that sometimes was, but it was round. And they would hold it in their hand and they would see things in there. And they would share their history of the people there and everyone took turns in the room. And the things that they would speak about, and what I learned from these men, is that they would talk about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. They would tell the specifics, and then they would say the prayer, and it was so profound, and I would end up crying because it was absolutely beautiful to listen to the crucifixion and the song and the prayer. Then added to that, they would talk about how our people came here. And some of the things that I wrote down was that my grandfather said we came from the east, and that eventually that Christ, after he was crucified, that he walked among the people. And I did say to you before, when we would be riding on a wagon and going through Chaco Canyon, he would slow down and stop and tell my Biji and me and those in the wagon, and he said that Christ walked here, that he blessed the people, he taught them, he healed them, and he blessed them. And he would tell them when he was ready to leave, and they were so sad. And he taught them the herbs, how to heal and heal themselves, you know, and to bless one another. And he left with them all of the things that he did for them so that they could do for themselves. And anyways, and then you would carry on, and he would just continue to expound upon that. And I didn't really understand, but I came to know how true that was. When Christ would leave, and he appeared to other tribes, and then he would come again, and he would bless them again. And so it was an incredible experience that as I was at the feet of my grandfather and these 12 men, how they expounded upon the oral histories that they knew, that I knew, that meant everything to them. And it was their foundation, and they wanted to be sure to carry it on. And few Dene people know these things. And the argument is always, well, you know, the white people brought us Christianity. It is not, well, they brought it later, but we as Native Americans and my people as the Dene people, they walked and talked with Christ long before the pilgrims came. They knew him, and he walked around among them. When you think about the drawing that these men had, and then think about what my grandfather and the 12 men spoke about, and they, you know, my grandfather said that they built a ship and they came across the great waters, and it was tumultuous, and they came here to this land. They were in the east, and there was millions, eventually, of millions and millions of Native Americans that were, you know, that were just covered this land. And when they would fight, they'd have heaps of dead people. I mean, there could be 50,000, 60,000 of them killing each other. But as the fighting continued and it became really bad, the people broke into tribes, and they went in many different directions. They went south. Grandpa says we came our oral history is that we came south along probably kind of like Tennessee, or could be, I don't know, that just in my mind I'm thinking, and they came, could have been through Georgia or by Florida, and then came because they said it was warm, and then they came and across and ended up in the Southwest, and they longed for home across the big waters. They longed for that home. And sometimes I would see these men weep because they said that's where we, you know, our umbilical cords were buried there. Our ancestors' umbilical cords were buried there. But then again, they say, we came to this place where the 4 sacred mountains are. Now our children, our posterity's umbilical cords are buried here. And this is always going to be a place that our hearts yearn for, and this is a sacred place for us. So that was kind of, that was the teachings that I received. Now Grandpa and I have, we've done genealogy research and visited the Micmac tribe in Maine. This is, I can't explain and have you feel unless you were there. How amazing it was to go in and meet the Micmac, and to have one of the tribal members take us to the museum. And the things we saw there were memorable and actually a testimony of and supported everything my grandfather and these 12 men spoke about. They talk about their history is these turtle boats. Now the turtle boats that they referred to were like this and conal shape, and they came across the great waters in that, and they ended up in the shores and came down the St. Lawrence River. And they tell you this, and then they get to the St. Lawrence River and they dispersed from there, and these people moved, they went up and they moved north. Now, as you know, the Micmacs went north, and they cover all of the different islands north, Nova Scotia, etc. They talked about, and these were, they call them turtle boats, I told you, little turtle boats. And there was an incredible amount in what we know and understand that that came. So once they made their home in Maine, you look at their, let's go with their language. Now, I don't know if you know what Reformed Egyptian is, but I will call it Reformed Egyptian. Some people laugh at that, but it is. And it was their written language that they brought with them, and they were still, to this day, they use it. The hieroglyphics that they use, the writings, the words they use. And they call this sometimes the Adamic language. And it's incredible to hear. The people, their dress, in their clothing, they have like a vest, but they have their prayer cloth underneath with the tassels. They wear that always. And then you see them when they go to the door, there's holes in the doors, and that's where they have their, he says they use papyrus. They fashion the bark, and they have their prayers, their sacred prayers, and they're on both sides of the doors. And when they go there, they repeat it, and they live by that. I mean, it was like almost, I thought, gee whiz, I didn't know the Jewish culture. And of course we started with Fiddler on the Roof, and you know what they were like, their prayers and the way they were, and it's so amazing because the Micmacs are similar in that, and they were very, very prayerful. I love these people. And so with that said, I mean, they continued, the whole museum was just mind-boggling. And how they came across, and the stories, they so related to what my grandfather had spoken. They talk about the wars and the things that happen and who they look forward to seeing again. It's incredible. So when you put all this together, you realize that, see, here's the traditional, and here is what my oral history is. This is the teachings of my grandfather and these 12 men. And then we have the modern Dene people who haven't even asked. Most of them probably haven't even asked their grandparents, what is our tradition? Where did we come from? The only thing they will tell you is we came from Dok Oaslid up there in Flagstaff, somewhere there. Then all of a sudden we're in Colorado. We came out of a hole there and it's sacred. See, my grandfather, that's why he never taught me the traditions. He said, man can change traditions, but that's not the solid teachings that we know. And this oral history is solid. Our grandparents taught us generation to generation to generation. So many aspects of life that the history books can't tell that. But when you sit down and talk with a Native American and you talk with the elderly, you discover how critical and how amazing their story is. That it's not spewed all over. It's not taken for granted, but it's in here. And it's the whole spirit of this incredible oral history. And this is what I'm sharing with you. And again, these are the things that my grandfather taught me. I'm lightly telling you this, and I pray that you will respect this. We all have a story. We all have our oral history. Mine is the answers of where I came. And that is where I'm going to leave it. And again, I could go in depth, but I'm not. It's reverent to me. I can only do this in reverence. So now, I'm going to thank Amy Teal and Marianne Spring again for this beautiful topic, though we didn't delve into it so deep. But what Grandma has expressed to you, you're not going to hear this anywhere else. And these are the things that my grandfather handed down to me. And I always ask, if you're Dene, whoever you are, ask your ancestors, ask your grandparents, and find out where you came from. The truth. Not what the books tell you. Don't read the history books, but find out for sure. Pray about it. Don't take it for granted. It will always lead you back to your Creator. Always. Whether you believe He exists or not, it will always lead you back there, to our first parents. So this is all Grandma's going to share with you, and thank you for listening. And boy, one more video and yoo-hoo, we'll get those gifts out to you, and I'm so excited for the live. I love you so, and hugs. Take care. Hagone. That I knew that meant everything to them. And it was their foundation, and they wanted to be sure to carry it on. And few Dene people know these things. And the argument is always, well, you know, the white people brought us Christianity. It is not, well, they brought it later. But we as Native Americans and my people as the Dene people, They walked and talked with Christ long before the pilgrims came. They knew him, and he walked around among them. When you think about the drawing that these men had, and then think about what my grandfather and the 12 men spoke about, and they, you know, my grandfather said that they built a ship and they came across the great waters, and it was tumultuous, and they came here to this land. They were in the east, and there was millions, eventually, of millions and millions of Native Americans that were, you know, that were just covered this land.
Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. All blessings, honor, glory, and power be unto the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahweh, and his only begotten Son, our Lord and Savior, whose name is Yahweh Shai. And double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. And salutations to the elect scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. My name is Ahmawan Gabar, back with another lesson, Lord willing, edifying, straight and to the point. And the video you've seen in the intro, a woman of the northern kingdom, Gad, Reuben, possibly, but, you know, nonetheless, probably get one of the Gadite tribes. You know, I'm not too familiar with the subcategories of the tribes of Gad, you know, the different, you know, groups that split off, you know, but we do know that you have the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom, you know, you got the indigenous tribes, which the 10 kingdoms, I mean, or the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom, they're all indigenous to this Americas, all right, North, Central, South, Canada, you know, this whole Western hemisphere. And she made a statement. She made a few good points. For one, in the beginning, she said that the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, the colonizers, okay, that they didn't necessarily give them the concept of Hamashiach, or to say the anointed, or as she said, Christ, you know, as the world called Jesus Christ, right? The anointed one. All right, because the northern kingdom already had Yahweh Shai, all right, because the Lord said he would come on his side. The Lord dwelt them on his side, and in his records that of the northern kingdom, that there was a Messiah on this side with them. All right, there's different names and terms that they would have referred to him as. You know, you got the elder brother Kazak out in Mississippi. He goes into it all the time. You know, that's one of his things, to always go into the northern kingdom. So he's very familiar with the names, the terminologies, you know, the indigenous names that they were referred to as our Lord, or they were referred our Lord to. You know, I can't think of any off the top at the moment, but the northern kingdom was very familiar with Yahweh Shai, all right? So she said that that the so-called white man didn't give them that, but then she kind of corrected it and said, well, he did, or they did give us Christianity, which is the plantation Christianity, all right? Like the Apostle Tahar calls it, and the apostles call it the plantation Christianity, which is what the Edomites beat our people into. All right, they beat that into our minds and our brains, all right, from the northern kingdom and to the southern kingdom. That false concept of so-called white Jesus was beat into our people. But prior to that, we have and had an understanding of the true power, all right? We had an understanding. Scriptures tell you that in, let me see, Jeremiah 17:4. Let me get that real quick. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 17 and verse 4. It says, and thou even thyself shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. So one thing that happened to all of us as a nation was that eventually we had discontinued from our heritage, from our nationality, from who we are as a people. All right, and the Lord caused us to serve our enemy. All right, mainly the Judah, Benjamin, Levi, in the land that they knew not. All right, because the northern kingdom, they were already over here. Esau came over here, and conquered them. All right, conquered us, conquered our people. Okay, and beat that Christianity into our brains. All right, so that Jake would discontinue from their heritage all kingdoms. Scriptures tell you also that Judah and Ephraim were oppressed together. So this is the land wherein we were oppressed together. So she got a point. She made an excellent point on that they didn't give us, you know, Christianity. In a sense, they did. All right, but the knowledge of a Messiah, Esau didn't give that to us. They gave us their teaching of the Bible, which is the false Christianity. Okay, so that's what she meant by that. That the tribes always had a concept, and she said it. She said that her grandfather said that the anointed walked among us. And let me go to John, the 10th chapter, when the Lord said he would do. John chapter 10 and verse 16 is the point. And he said, matter of fact, I'll start up a little bit. I'll start at 14. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. As the Father knoweth me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. That other sheep is talking about what? About who? The northern kingdom. All right, because when the Lord came, who was in Israel at the time? Predominantly Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right, so the Lord did go to the other sheep, which are the other 10 tribes. All right, and there's records of the 10 tribes and their stories behind it. Just like how she also said that her grandfather told her that they came over over the great waters on a ship. Some would hear that and think that's just a story, but that's actual records. Just like how they have actual records that the Messiah walked among them, visited them. All right, they have records on that. Again, and other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. So let me go back to what she was saying. So yeah, she mentioned around this mark right here, around like the 59, 57 mark. Let me replay it.
You know, my grandfather said that they built a ship and they came across the great waters, and it was tumultuous. And they came here to this land. They were in the east. And there was millions, eventually, millions and millions of Native Americans that were, you know, that were just covered this land.
Right. So she said her grandfather said, which is actual historical facts, biblical proof. That's why they try to take the Apocrypha away. You know, exclude it out of the scriptures and don't and give it no credibility. But let the devil do what the devil is going to do. All right, this thing is ultimately for the believers. So when she said her grandfather said that they built a ship and crossed the great water, where did her grandfather get that information from? From his grandfather, because that happened hundreds of years ago. All right, hundreds of years ago. Okay, so let's go to the record in which she's speaking on. We could go to 2nd Esdras, but we could start at 2nd Esdras 13 and 40, and then also have 2nd Kings, the 17th chapter. When, matter of fact, I'll get that first, just to hit the point. 2nd Kings 17, and I start at 5. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah and in Habor by the river Gozan, and in the city of the Medes. So this is during the time of, you got King Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, and Hosea, like it says in verse 3, and Hosea became his servant and gave him presents. Matter of fact, I'll read verse 4 also. It says, "And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers to So, king of Egypt, and brought no presents to the king of Assyria, and he had done year by year, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison." So now let's go to, when you read this whole chapter, it talks about the Assyrian captivity of the northern kingdom, the children of Israel. All right, when I refer to the children of Israel, or when the scriptures say Israel, it's referring to the northern kingdom. Many times is referring to the northern kingdom. Sometimes it's Israel as a whole, but then when it says Judah and it says Israel, you got the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. All right, the northern kingdom being Israel and the southern kingdom being the kingdom of Judah. All right, which goes back to the split after the death of King Solomon, Jeroboam and Rehoboam. All right, so read the whole chapter about the Assyrian captivity, and after X amount of time, you had this to happen, which is in 2nd Ezra chapter 13, and I'll start at verse 39. "And whereas thou sawest that he had gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of the land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land." All right, let me read that again. "Those are the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, the land of Israel, the land of Samaria." All right, that's why when you read also in 2 Kings, it tells you that how they brought heathens into the land. All right, but you still had Israel. Israel will always be scattered and always be remaining and left back, you know. So every single Israel was not taken out of that land. So you had a little bit of Israelites still there. But nonetheless, heathens came and dwelt in that land. That's why the Lord said, enter not into the way of the Samaritans, or in the land of Samaria, because you had heathens there. All right, and that's recorded in the history. You had heathens that was dwelling in our land because of what happened, because of Israelites, the northern kingdom, being taken out of that land and put into the land of Assyria. All right, and then they were replaced with heathens. All right, so that's why the Lord said what he said. And that the woman, the Samaritan woman that came to the well, she was a descendant from them heathens that came from Assyria. Okay, or from that parts of the land when Israelites were replaced by transplants. All right. They also tell you how when they got up in that land, the heathens, they were getting attacked by lions and all that, because they weren't keeping the law of our land. So they was getting judged and jacked up. So again, it says, "Those are the 10 tribes which are carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt." All right, where never mankind dwelt. And this is talking about America. And I'm going to show you also, you know, what the woman said, the Gadite sister. All right, the Northern Kingdom sister said, to be accurate. And I'm going to bring up a couple accounts that are you know, that's easy accessible on the internet, Google or whatever. Just a few word searches and you'll find it. So again, but they took counsel among themselves. This is talking about the northern kingdom, the tribes, the 10 tribes, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country wherein never mankind dwelt, because mankind never dwelt on this land. All right, mankind had been here. It tells you that King Solomon sent a navy of ships, all right, to bring forth goods and send it back. And it tells you, I believe it was like a year and a half span, you know, it took, you know, 3 years to go, one and a half to come, 1.5 to go back. Okay, so where never mankind dwelt, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land, And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. Remember, she said, her grandfather said that they built a ship. They built ships. All right. And passed through the waters, passed through the tumultuous waters. Okay. It says, and they enter into Euphrates by a narrow place of the river. Where's the Euphrates River? In the east. For the Most High then shewed signs for them, and held still the floods till they were passed over. So the Lord kept it to where Yahweh Shema Shai kept it to where they ain't get stuck up in no, in the passages where they were led. The storms were held back, the floods were held back, the waters, the tumultuous waters were held back, so that they could make it. The Lord showed signs, chariots in the sky to guide them. You had Issachar that was there. Issachar was the expert, or is the expert, in reading the signs of heaven. Okay, so they knew where to go, how to, and where to follow, what to follow, because it was all prophecy to happen. The Lord wanted it to happen this way. It was supposed to happen this way. For the Most High then shewed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go. It was a great way to go from that region to this part of the region. Is a great way. It's a long way. Namely, a year and a half. And the same region is called Asareth. All right, Asareth. This region was called Asareth, which would be considered the Americas. Because now let's look up the word. Excuse me. Let's look up Asareth, and you'll find that it pops up in the Jewish Encyclopedia.com. It says Asareth. It says by Morris Jastrow Jr. Kaufman Kohler. It says the name of the land beyond the great river. The great river. All right, that great body of water that they had to pass to come over here. Far away from the habitation of man, because this part of the earth was not inhabited. All right, this was like the unknown part of the earth, so to speak. Even though King Solomon will come and with the navy of ships, all right, to bring things and send things back, man never dwell here. It says, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell. All right, you hear that? And this is from the Jewish Encyclopedia. So that proves that, even saying the word Jew, as in one tribe, is off. That's why you got that book called the 13th tribe. Because if you're the Jew, then who are the other 12 tribes? Okay? Who are the other 12? Who are the other 10? So it says, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses. And that was the intentions. That was the intent, for Israel to come here and to observe all the laws of Moses. Now, did Israel keep all the laws for all generation? No. Eventually we went off. Eventually Israel, that's why we always go into captivity, because we always go off. All right. What happens over time? Israel would do right after they leave, after they get out of, read the book of Judges. After Israel will get jacked up, chastised, the Lord would deliver them. Send a judge, or find, make a way for them to be delivered out of our current situation in captivity. And then eventually what will happen? Israel will go off again. And then what will happen again? The Lord will send a captivity again. And then what will happen? Israel will be redeemed and go off again. That's why this time around, only the elect is going to get it. Ain't going to be no exodus like how the first exodus, when all Israel got delivered. The Lord is only dealing with the remnant now, and even among the 10 tribes, there is a remnant. There's 7,000, excuse me, I'm sorry. There's 12,000 from each tribe, 144,000 that will be delivered. All right, the 144,000. And then you have the 1/3 that will be delivered, which are the tribes, the multitude, of many different nations, kindreds, and tongue, So it ain't just, the 144,000. You have the whole 1/3 and Israelites that are going to make it throughout the four corners of the earth, as well as you have Israelites that are not going to make it throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay, so they were observing the law of Moses until the time of restoration. Okay, according to second Ezra, fourth Ezra, the 13th chapter, which is to say second Ezra, the 13th chapter. All right, so what's the time of restoration? When Yahweh Shai come back to restore all things. All right, the captain of our salvation. You know, when the Lord come back to restore all things. It says Columbus identified America with this land. You see, so the land asterisk, according to 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, Columbus identified America with this land. So showing you that America, that Columbus, that devil was well aware of the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha was a credible source of information, and it still is. All right, so he used that information to sail to this land, knowing exactly who he would encounter, which is why he brought a Hebrew interpreter with him. And you can look it up for yourself too. All right, Lois de Torres. All right, Lois de Torres was Christopher Columbus's interpreter on his first voyage to America. De Torres was a converso, apparently born Joseph ben Halevi, chosen by Columbus for his knowledge of Hebrew. All right, Hebrew interpreter. Okay. So let me go back. So why did Columbus bring him? Because he knew, well, who would be on this land? Hebrews, Hebrew Israelites. So Columbus identified with America with this land. What land? Asterisk, as pursuant to 2nd Ezra 13th chapter, verse 45. For through that country there was a great way to go. It was a long voyage from there to Babylon, America, namely of 1.5 years, and the same region is called Asareth. All right. Then dwell they there until the latter times. And now when they shall begin to come, the latter times, we in the latter times. So this is where the northern kingdom is still here. They still here until the latter time, until Yahweh Shah, until the restoration come, until the Lord delivers us as a whole from out of this place. All right. That was the main point that I'm going to read in there. Columbus identified asterisk with America, or you could say the Americas. All right. North, Central, and South America. This landmass as a whole, including Canada. So it says, then dwelt they there until the latter time. And now when they shall begin to come, the highest shall stay in the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. But those that be left behind of thy people are they that are found within my borders. Now when he destroyed the multitudes of nations that are gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain. And when you read up, it talks about it, because it jumps around a little bit as far as the story goes. Now this part is when you jump up above, when this is the end. This is the end right here. The multitude of people that came out to fight Yahweh Shah. All right, that, you know, when you read about the man that stood upon the mountain, this is Yahweh Shah. We go over this all the time. You got the Space Force. This is the end. This is during the time of World War III. All right. The multitude that's going to fight against Yahweh Shah, he going to destroy them. You know, this is the end time. That's why it says, now when he destroyed the multitude of the nations that are gathered together to fight against the Lord when he come back, he shall defend his people that remain. He's going to defend the remnant. All right. The remnant is going to be defended in that time. You know, the remnant, the remainers. Okay, which are of the tribes of Israel. You know, Judah, Benjamin, Levi. You got Ephraim, Simeon, Zebulun, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Asher, and Issachar. The 12 tribes of Israel. Revelation, the 7th chapter, tells you exactly who's going to be delivered. All right, it tells you exactly. Matter of fact, I quoted it earlier. And after these I saw 4 angels. I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna end it here, Lord willing, to be edifying. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living power, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power in their foreheads. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there was sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Okay, and it gives you the 12,000 from each of the tribes. And verse 9 says, and after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hand. All right, now the other multitude, the great multitude, is talking about the rest of Israel that's going to be saved. Okay, because these are Israelites coming from, you know, looking like other nations, speaking the tongues of other nations, but they're all Israelites. All right, who were redeemed, the remnant. All right, so, you know, that's pretty much about it. Matter of fact, let me read verse 14. Verse 13. And one of the elders said unto me, saying unto me, and one of the elders answered, one of the angels answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, these are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. You see, so these are the ones that are going to come out of the great tribulation, because that's the time we're entering into, great tribulation. You know, great tribulation is coming. I did the video yesterday evening about it, going into tribulation. Great tribulation is coming, and we want to be those people, all right, those among this vision, all right, slated to be delivered out of that great tribulation that is coming, all right, having our robes, meaning our garments, our spiritual mindset washed, you know, our sins covered by the blood of the Lamb, that we can actually put on glorious garments, all right, and a glorious body that will never sin again, you know. So yeah, the tribes, the northern kingdom, the 10 tribes, they Israelites, man. To hell with anybody that say otherwise. All right, that's an old argument. Again, to hell with anybody that say otherwise. The black only, you know, Israelites, hey, listen, get right, or the Most High will get you tight, all right? So with that, I'm going to end it, and I pray and hope to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. This was quick, edifying, straight and to the point. Until next time I say, Shalom to the elect. Shalom.
Stop on the roadway.
Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. But he shall overcome at the last.
Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua.
But he shall overcome at the last. But he shall overcome at the last.
Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua.
But he shall overcome at the last.